A lot of people know that journaling helps with anxiety, but they don't actually understand how that happens or how to do it in a way that it reduces overwhelm instead of adding more. So if you've journaled before or you've been thinking about it, but you're unsure how to do it, you think it actually adds overwhelm, or it may seem pointless to you, this video is for you. I'm going to be breaking down the psychology behind journaling and anxiety, explaining to you how it actually is impacting your nervous system, go over 3 common mistakes that actually make journaling unhelpful because I want you to avoid them, and then also giving you 3 evidence-based journaling practices that you can start today. In order to understand why journaling is helpful, we first have to understand how anxiety works. Anxiety is simply our brain looping, catastrophizing, planning for the worst case scenarios. And because of that, essentially the brain is not just having thoughts, we are actually operating from a protective based system. It is constantly scanning for danger or uncertainty, which means your nervous system is working overtime. It's important to understand that your brain actually has limited working memory. So when your nervous system is working overtime and there's constant thoughts running in your head, it makes it really hard to do other things like make decisions, stay present, relax, so on and so forth. And that is where the journaling actually becomes supportive. Journaling helps in 3 main ways: externalizing your thoughts, activating your prefrontal cortex, and creating emotional distance. When we look at externalizing our thoughts, it's the process of no longer having to hold everything in our head because we're actually, with physical pen and paper, moving it onto the paper. This reduces cognitive load and gives the brain space to breathe. Scientists often call this cognitive offloading. And fun fact, this is why I find a lot of people actually find therapy very helpful, because they're able to verbalize and externalize everything that they've been holding within them. Then we go into the prefrontal cortex. So writing engages the part of your brain that is responsible for problem solving, logic, and emotional regulation. This can calm the amygdala, which is your fear center. And anxiety and fear, right, are very closely linked. Creating emotional distance is also very important because when the thought moves from inside your head onto the page, it becomes easier to observe rather than fuse or become enmeshed with it. This is often why people feel lighter after journaling, or I get that said to me a lot after therapy, is that I feel actually lighter because you're not carrying everything internally anymore. So you're getting a sense that I'm drawing a lot of parallels between journaling and therapy. They serve different purposes, but a lot of times I encourage my clients to journal in between therapy sessions simply because this is what is happening. They're cognitively offloading. They're not stuffing it down. They're not holding it all until our next session. It gives them some space and they can continue to feel lighter day to day as opposed to just once a week or once every other week when they see me. Now, as someone who specializes in trying to integrate nervous system understanding into my work, I want you to understand that most importantly, journaling is helping you slow down. Anxiety in the body and the nervous system is very fast. Journaling is a very slow process. It requires you to pause, to think, to ground yourself, to organize your thoughts. It's going to help in that transition very slowly from moving from fight or flight into more regulation. I talk a lot about how insight is needed. Awareness is the first step in everything, but it's not enough. We have to give our bodies cues of safety. So when you're doing a slower activity like journaling, you're cueing to your body that I am safe and I'm not in active danger, which in and of itself will support your nervous system, in turn shifting out of that state of anxiety. Okay, now I'm also the first person to say that journaling does not work for everyone. Not everyone is a journaler, and I totally understand that. But there are 3 common mistakes that people make that can make journaling feel ineffective. So if you've been doing one of these, I really want to urge you to give journaling another try, or knowing these proactively before you start journaling may actually support you in keeping and maintaining the practice. The first thing is that you're only brain dumping your worries or your fears or like everything negative. While that is an important part of the process, if you're only doing that, you're actually increasing rumination, which can lead to more anxiety or even make you feel worse. So we're going to talk about how to fix that shortly. The second thing is that you try to write perfectly. I really try to talk to my clients who struggle with perfectionism and people pleasing about this, because that's where I see it show up the most. But your journaling is not for your grammar or your paragraphs. I actually encourage them to use a pen instead of a pencil or something they can erase. If you make a mistake, scratch it out, keep going. The point is that you progress, is that you keep showing up, you keep writing, you go with the flow. It's not to find perfection. And I know that can be hard, but it's part of the practice in and of itself. The third thing is that people wait until they're overwhelmed or in active anxiety to start journaling. You have to build the practice. It is a tool, it is a practice. If your nervous system becomes familiar with it, it will feel safer when you are in times of dysregulation. So you need to build it like a muscle. You need to do it not when you're like super overwhelmed, but when you're a little bit overwhelmed or when you're calm. Like, it needs to be a consistent practice for you to actually feel that it's effective. Now that you know some of the most common mistakes, let's talk about what you actually should be doing and what the evidence-based practices are for journaling. I'm going to add them on the screen so you can screenshot them, because I'm going to offer some prompts as well. Method number 1 is thought to paper or cognitive offloading. So the prompt that you might be able to use is, what is my brain trying to manage right now? And another prompt might be, what can live on paper instead of my head? These are the questions I want you to ask yourself that can quickly help reduce mental load. Method number 2 is naming and validating. This is part of emotional regulation. So one of the prompts could be, right now I feel blank because blank. Then add to it as you go, of course I feel this way because blank. Validation reduces the threat perception. So it's really important to actually normalize your own experience and understand it. Method 3 is to process and plan. This is executive function oriented. So the prompt, what do I need next? As an example, this could be a break, clarity, a conversation, a plan, hydration, reassurance, talking to a friend. The goal is not to fix, it's to orient. Now that may all sound great, but the real question you need to ask yourself is like, how do I make this stick? How do I actually start to do this? Well, 3 simple guidelines I like to tell people is 1, write for 5 minutes every day. It's a muscle, it's a practice. Like I said, it's a really important part to actually making it feel helpful. Even just 5 minutes, or sometimes giving yourself 5 minutes every day might naturally turn into 15 on some days, but just build it into some kind of routine that you have. The second thing is to stop while it still feels helpful. Rumination is a real thing, my friends. Like I said, if you're getting into a really negative territory or you feel like you're spiraling or going in circles, try to use one of those 3 evidence-based methods that I told you, and then actually find a place to pause, to step away from your journaling. Don't just keep going in circles over and over again. And then the third thing is to not judge it. Give yourself grace, allow this to be your safe space, put it somewhere where no one will find it. And we are always our harshest critics. So really take that lens of compassion, of empathy with yourself. Don't judge the perfectionism of the grammar, the paragraphs. Don't judge what you write. Allow it to just be a natural and real process, even if it's scary. Remember that when we're doing this type of journaling, it's not really intended to be creative or poetic. There's a different space for this. Our intention here is to reduce anxiety, minimize your overwhelm, and create more space within your mind. If you found this helpful, please click the subscribe button. It truly helps me out. I create new videos every Sunday. You can go back and check out my other videos as well. I also post daily on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram at Christina.DeFranco. On TikTok and YouTube Shorts, I often post a lot of journaling prompts that you can use. So if you're really trying to get into this habit and practice, hopefully those will give you some great ideas. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again next week.